On Saturday, November 2nd, 2024, the Louisiana Center for the Book in the State Library of Louisiana held the 20th Annual Louisiana Book Festival in the Capitol Park area of downtown Baton Rouge. Amina Luqman-Dawson was one of over 230 authors and scholars who presented at the festival. The Q&A session you are about to watch was led by Heather Marie Montilla, and it followed Amina Luqman-Dawson's presentation on her debut novel, FREEWATER. The FREEWATER is a New York Times Bestseller and a John Newbery Medal and Coretta Scott King Award winner. Here now is Amina Luqman-Dawson and Heather Marie Montilla.
So we're going to do a Q&A in a few moments, but I thought that I would ask you some questions. Just move a little closer. I promise I won't bite. Okay. Can you hear us in the back? Okay, so first I think it's helpful to know how many of you have read this amazing book? How many of you are now going to read this amazing book? All right, that is what I like to see. So the reason why, obviously, it came across my desk was because she won a Newbery Award, right? And so I read this book, and I read lots of books. That's my job. And this book, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to interview her. And how we're friends is because, not because we're both policy people, because we're actually, neither of us are authors, we're policy wonks. But it's because of her passion and her amazing creativity and the journey this book took me on. So, my first question for you is, what was your childhood library?
Oh, lovely. My childhood library it's called View Park. It was not far from my school, so I would walk. My mom worked a lot, and so she'd say, okay, go to the library after school. And I would have to walk there after school with my siblings. And I love this library because it's the library where I learned to love reading. And I remember one day sitting in the library and looking at the wall of fiction, and I'm like, I'm gonna read all those books, every last one. And so that was an amazing time, and I met some wonderful librarians.
How many of you spend time in libraries? Right? Right, so, and that's the thing, that's why we're here, because we love libraries, right? We love books, we're creative, we love information and access to that. I know this book has been out. I know people like me, I think the first time I ran up to you, I think we were at the National Book Festival, yes. And I saw you walking and I was like, oh my gosh. And at first you're like, you're so weird. I was like, I interviewed you.
Yes, it was the best interview that I had. I love that interview. And I was like, you did interview me. Great, I was so happy to see you.
All right, besides me, obviously, who has been, or what were some of the favorite comments you've gotten back over this period?
Well, I gotta go to the kids. I always have to go to the kids that I've met because I get to go to schools, and most times they've read the book for their class. And I love when the kids come to me and they're like, I wanna go back to FREEWATER. Are you gonna write more so I can go back to FREEWATER? And I'm like, really? And I love that comment because it says to me that I've succeeded in my goal, that in the midst of this extraordinary, terrible time, and I kind of want to tell that to them at the point, I'm like, do you really want to go back to a time of great sorrow and hardship? But they could see past that to these characters that they connected with and this place that they connected with, and so they wanted to be in that time. And I'm of the firm belief that in order to see humanity within enslaved people, in order to see the value that they lend to this country and the history of this country, you have to be able to spend some time with them. You have to be able to find some mental space to be able to appreciate fully who they were and see nuance in their character, see nuance in that to understand that they, just as how we are individuals and different, they too were individuals and different. They were just trying to survive in a very difficult time. So anytime I find a young person that says, I want to go to FREEWATER, I'm like, oh, that's a job well done.
So we're about to have the 250th anniversary of our nation. How do you think your book, what role do you think your book can play in raising the visibility of Maroons? Having said that, I want to say part of my job at PBS has been making sure these undertold stories across America are being told. So what are you gonna do? How are you gonna make more people know about your book, and how can I help you?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I'll throw it back. I was like, how can you all help me? Very much so. So you've been here today. You spent some time with me. I remember, I love this. I met this young lady here, Addison, and I signed her book earlier. She was talking to me about reading the book. She's like, I'm taking this book, and we're gonna have it. I love it so much. We're gonna have it in our classrooms more. We're gonna get some more of them. So to me, I'm always looking to create delegates, representatives to go out into the world and advocate for this book, and because that's what it will take. I think that when people first hear a book about that centers in this time period around enslavement, there is a fear, and I understand because I was raised with it. And so it will take folks who've actually read it and see how beautiful I've been able to create this time period. Yeah, the beauty I've been able to find in it, and the fun, and really it's an adventure story, to be very honest. This is a true adventure. My kid loved adventure. I wrote it for my son. It's an adventure story. So finding disciples out there is always what I'm doing. And so I'm always, and then hopefully I'll improve my social media presence. I'm saying that here as like sort of personal, like, so I can be accountable.
All right, well, I hope to post like all the pictures from us this week.
That's right.
And so you can just like them, and you can all like them.
Repost them.
Repost, share, engage. Okay, so I know everyone out there is wondering, you've alluded to it a little bit. What is your next project? Are you working? I mean, this first one, right, you did it completely in secret, which, you know, it's hard to do. For those of you who do side things in secret, it's hard to do things in secret, because when you're excited, you want to tell your friends. How are you going to do this next project? What are you thinking, or can you not yet reveal?
It's so interesting. I'm not revealing much about it, but I can say that I'm dedicated to this time period, and I'm also dedicated to finding other bits of history that are lesser known and lesser explored, and finding ways to create big, huge, complex, interesting stories around that. Something truly entertaining and that makes you want to be there, even though it's during a very hard time. So I do have something in mind. And it's hard because that's true. That first story was my own little quiet baby. It was just, I mean, literally like in my office, just me. And so this is a different thing where I'm like, wow, people actually care to know what I'm doing. And so hopefully people will appreciate this new bit of history as much as the last.
Okay, the world has changed a lot since you started writing.
Yeah.
And now we have AI. A lot of people are using AI for all sorts of things. My question for you is, you had 25 revisions.
Yes.
Do you think, at least, do you think AI is going to help you at all? Whether it be in the research or if it's in a revision, how do you think AI can enhance your work? Sorry.
That is an interesting, good question. You know, I have not relied on AI in any way that I know of. Of course, I'm very old school. I use Microsoft Word, and I write what I write, and I go to the library, and I talk to librarians, and perhaps, yeah, I'm just super old school. Perhaps that could change in time. I don't know, seeing as how this next book is taking me forever. Maybe my agent will be like, perhaps some AI could be assistance. I don't know. But I don't know where it would fit in the future. I do still believe, though, when we talk about AI, that there's a place, that human creativity will always have a place in the world. I think it is our natural desire to want to express ourselves, and as long as we know how to read and write, I think it's our natural desire to want to express ourselves in writing. And that AI has to find, it becomes intelligent based on our original imagination. And so it doesn't know, AI doesn't have an imagination. And so I do believe that we can survive AI. And so, yeah, that's fine.
Great answer. Are there any questions from the audience?
Yeah. I have a question about dialogue. You mentioned needing to spend a lot of time getting that right. From the sample that you read, it sounds grades? Were you one of the authors sitting somewhere with a tape recorder eavesdropping on people, or how did you practice your dialogue to get
I
it
just
right?
want to repeat the question. So Mason asked a question about dialogue and how Amina was able to create dialogue in her book.
That's a great question. You know, I think that as I approached dialogue, the first draft of it was trying to like remember my own childhood self a little bit and sort of key into that, and then listen to my own son in the way that he like, because he at the time he was kind of like he was in the 6-7 sort of, you know, especially for Ada's voice, that sort of like curious, effervescent voice. He had some of that back then, and so I listened to what was around me a little bit. I did use a tape recorder. That's not a bad idea, I think, at all, because I've heard of that. People can use that. And then it was really trial and error. And I actually learned that I was pretty good at it, which I was surprised at. I didn't, you know, I feared it more than anything. And it's by far my proudest accomplishment. And the creation of characters and their dialogue is my proudest accomplishments on this book by a mile. And it was the one thing that I was trying to get around as much as possible, even if it meant writing a really boring story, which apparently low dialogue, very few character stories are boring.
Anyone else have a question? Yeah. Oh, we're going to repeat. So the question is, what were the names for the characters' names, the inspiration for the characters' names and traits?
Oh, they came from all over. Like, so Ada at the time was similar to my son's age. And so, and Ada is a familial name, like in my husband's family. It's a very important name. And I just love the sound of it. And I felt like kids could easily like remember it. So that's how I came up with Ada's name. And her personality reminded me a little bit of my son, a little kind of like, doo, 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 you know, like anything's possible kind of way. But other characters, Suleiman, I think was he's like my superhero character. He was a very deliberate character for me. He didn't just come out of nowhere. I wanted someone who felt larger than life and lived in that time period. I felt like that was important because so many times what these people did to survive was in fact larger than life. It's hard to depict that because it's in the midst of so much. So I remember that, and I love the name Suleiman. I wrote him in such a way, he's so cool that he makes me a little bit like nervous when I like write about him. I'm like, oh, Suleiman. I get a little like, oh my God, he's so cool. Because he's just like, that fly, you know, and that was a very deliberate thing. But then the other characters like Ferdinand, he's totally, completely reminds me of a kid I was in fifth and sixth grade with. 100%. I can see his smile, I can see his mischievousness, I can see it all. It's clear as damn, like that's that kid. And so imagine, you know, you're in school now, 20 years from now, you write a story about one of your 7th grade classmates. That is exactly what I did.
I think we have time for one last question. Sir?
I just wonder whether the book answers the questions in the excerpt that you read, especially about keeping snakes off you at night.
So the question is, does your book answer the questions that you pose in the section you read?
Well, it is a little bit of a preview of some of the adventure to come. It gets pretty wild, and what I like about the adventure that is there is that it takes place in FREEWATER in this very safe space, but there's this danger that's there. So you don't have the concerns that you normally have when you read a book that's set in this time period. You're not thinking very much about the plantation. You're not thinking very much about who might be after them. You're thinking about what kind of trouble did these kids get themselves into that you know they shouldn't be doing. And so when kids are enslaved, newly freed, never enslaved, when they give a moment on their own, they come up with like regular kids, just stuff that, you know, you shouldn't do. And so because of that, yes, you're gonna find all sorts is it snake? I have a really unfortunate thing that happens with a wild hog and a small cliff. Yeah, so they get into lots of trouble.
Okay, well, I think we're about up on time. So is there any last takeaway or thought you'd like to share with your audience?
Thank you. First, I thank you so much for doing this. It makes me feel so special. And you all listening makes me feel special. I just do ask that you give the book a try, and that I feel like if I can get you to FREEWATER, I always say, if I can get you to FREEWATER, you're going to love this book. Just get to FREEWATER. And consider being one of my disciples and sharing the word. Thank you.